Today, we're going to dive into the amazing world of tabletop sports, where some fans don't just play the game, they completely rewrite it. We're looking at the classic APBA basketball game and the incredible fans who basically took it apart, piece by piece, and rebuilt it with their own rules.
So it all really boils down to this one big challenge. How in the world do you take a real, living, breathing athlete, all their skills, their tendencies, their dynamism, and translate all of that onto a static piece of cardboard with just a bunch of numbers?
For the APBA community, this wasn't just some passing thought. It was a puzzle. It was a code that they just had to crack. This is a story of how a bunch of players became game designers, reverse engineering the game's logic to make it better, faster, and in some cases, something else entirely.
All right, so to really get what these fans did, we got to start with the game's DNA. And it all lives right here, in the player card's S column, the shooting column.
It's kind of wild when you think about it. This one single column of 36 numbers had to do triple duty. It had to accurately represent how well a guy shoots from the field, how good he is at the free throw line, and his ability to draw fouls. All of that is packed into one simple lookup table. It's an incredible piece of design. And this is where the code breaking really began. A researcher named Mike Weber figured out that each one of those 36 numbers, or S values, represents a tiny little piece of a player's field goal percentage. So by adding up the values for every number on the card using this exact chart, you could figure out that player's real-life shooting accuracy. Just like that, the code was cracked.
So, once fans understood how the game ticked, they almost immediately started asking, okay, but what's missing? Because for all its genius, the base game left out some pretty key parts of basketball. And the community? They were more than ready to start filling in the blanks.
And this is where things just exploded. The creativity of these fans went into overdrive. They started writing their own rules, adding all these new layers of realism for things like individual defense, blocked shots, and of course, the fast break.
Check this out. John Ing's system for individual defense is just a perfect example of how a simple house rule can be so effective. All you do is compare the shooter's offensive rating to the defender's rating. So a lockdown defender like Walt Frazier could actually make it tougher for his guy to score. It added this whole new crucial layer of one-on-one matchups that the game was missing.
Believe it or not, block shots weren't even in the original game. Richard Selleck came up with this really slick two-step system to fix that. Here's how it worked. If a shot roll came up as 17 or 18 and the shot was a miss, you'd now call that a block. Then you just roll on the team's rebound chart to see who gets the credit. All of a sudden, guys like Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain had a whole new way to dominate the game.
And here's the best part. These fan-made rules actually worked. Selig was meticulous about tracking his stats. And as you can see, the season he played with his rules for blocks and steals gave him league averages that were way, way closer to the real NBA stats at the time. I mean, the proof is right there in the numbers. The fans were genuinely making the game better.
But what about how a team feels? Fred Dorn tackled that by creating something called a fast break potential rating. He said, look, let's give every player a score from 1 to 5 based on how good they are in transition. This meant a run-and-gun team like the old Boston Celtics would finally feel different from a slow-it-down team. It added this whole new strategic dimension.
But fans didn't just stop with adding stats. Oh no. Some of them wanted to change the very rules of the game itself. They wanted to take the professional game engine and see if they could make it work for a totally different sport, college basketball.
This quote from a fan named Morgan Lester, it just perfectly sums up the whole can-do vibe of this community. He saw the potential for a college version of the game and, well, he basically said, watch me.
Lester's rules changed the game in some really fundamental ways. Suddenly there's no 24-second shot clock, which opens the door for stall tactics. Players foul out with 5 fouls, not 6. And maybe the biggest deal of all, he added rules for playing a zone defense, which was completely absent from the pro version and totally changes how you approach matchups on the court.
Okay, let's be real for a second. For all its amazing detail, APBA basketball could be, well, a bit of a slog. All those calculations, looking things up on charts, it could really bog a game down. So, of course, another wave of fan innovation focused on one thing: speed.
Mike Weber, the same guy who cracked the S column, he was on a mission to speed things up. The single biggest time saver was using the official short game rules, which could cut playing time by a massive 60%.
But then you had other clever tricks, like rolling all the dice you need for a play at once. That could shave off another 15%. Suddenly, playing a whole season replay didn't seem so crazy. But this right here might be the most genius time-saving fix of all. It came from Frank Markotic. See, the biggest slowdown in the game was having to recalculate all the dice roll numbers every single time you subbed a player in or out. Markotic's system gets rid of that completely. With this chart, you just roll the dice and it tells you which position, like the center or the left forward, takes the shot. It was a brilliant fix that made substitutions totally seamless.
So we've seen fans tweak the code, add new features, and make the whole thing faster. But the ultimate act of fan creativity, that was throwing out the engine entirely and building a new one from scratch.
This really was the final frontier for these fan innovators. They moved way beyond just simple house rules and into the territory of a total conversion. They created an almost unrecognizable new game, all while still using the original player cards as a foundation.
So, at the heart of one of these new systems was this master shot attempt chart. Instead of all that converting dice rolls and checking player cards, you'd use a special deck of 72 shooting cards. You draw a card, roll some dice, and just look at this one chart to see what happened. It was a complete and total overhaul of how the game even worked.
And this wasn't just about shooting. I mean, they re-engineered everything. Even something as basic as getting a rebound got its own brand new, detailed system. This chart shows you how they handled things like contested rebounds and jump balls, with player ratings, dice rolls, even a new home court advantage rule.
Make no mistake, this was a massive project. The fans who made this alternate version created custom charts for everything, a new card-based system for the flow of play, and even added rules for modern things like three-point shots and player fatigue. They basically used the old APBA cards as a launchpad to build a brand new game.
And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? From just cracking the code on a single column of numbers to building a completely different game engine, the APBA community just shows you what true fan passion looks like. And it makes you wonder, at what point does changing something you love turn into creating something totally new? Where exactly is that line between a house rule and a whole new game?